This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today as we get set up to discuss all things that are going on with the Edmonton Oilers, which is a heck of a whole lot, not much at this point here in early June. We're moving into Pete Night Days weekend in Crossfield this weekend. So again, as you've kind of seen with the theme so far this summer, it's going to be here and there with the videos, as I think most summers have been throughout my time doing this whole Oilers shebang. But as we get going, friends, what I want to say is just, hey, thanks for tuning in, because I know I'm taking away from your summer when you're tuning into an episode of mine. So thank you. And okay, are we avoiding the elephant in the room a little bit? Yes, we are. I asked them for the Papa Frank at the barber shop, and they got it for me. So we're good to go right there. All right, friends, I will acknowledge that. I do know what's going on here on your screens. That said, if you're new to the channel, friends, I will flash the graphic right now, and then we'll get to it. I'll waste no more of your time. Like I said, I know I'm wasting your time. You could be outside, sitting on the deck, having a beverage of choice. If you're new to the channel, I want you to consider hitting that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV. Stay tuned. It's going to be sporadic throughout the summer. Hey, you know what? I'm enjoying 30-degree weather just like you, right? Come on, I'm human too. All right, either way. What's kind of happened since we last talked? I know we talked about that Alex DeBrincat thing that kind of popped up there the other day. And obviously, again, kind of similar to the Patrick Kane deal last summer, it's going to be something that probably gets talked about. He's submitted a list of teams. Do I have time on an editorial basis to figure that out? No. So are the Oilers included? I don't know. Do I care? No. Again, it's just one of those big shiny names. When you see something like that happen, you get out in front of it because you have to. That's the way YouTube works. So that's why we did it. Now, all of a sudden, you see a guy like Carter Hart come up in discussion. The other day he was available. The other day he was about to be traded. But then we learned that it's just the Philadelphia Flyers are engaging in tire kicking situations across the NHL to try and gauge and figure out the value for one Carter Hart. I think the consensus in that is if the Philadelphia Flyers are to trade Carter Hart, it is full-time rebuild for the Flyers at this point. And hey, you know what? Again, Carter Hart, I don't need to tell you the story. He's a local kid in Edmonton. So yeah, it makes sense, right? Let's go. Let's get it going. And I think that's where any and all the appetite comes for Carter Hart. Because quite honestly, again, I think Carter Hart probably costs you Stuart Skinner. That's just my brainwaves working in funny, mysterious ways. But anything that starts with Stuart Skinner involved for Carter Hart, I will be absolutely 110% out on. And anything in the world where you're trading Carter Hart for Jack Campbell, again, I don't know how that all pans out either, because are you trading negative value for plus value? Because yeah, like the Flyers are obviously trying to get something for Carter Hart. They're not selling him for free by any means. So just to give you an idea here, I'll go over and we'll talk about Carter Hart here a little bit. But again, it's another thing just similar to that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins video we did earlier this summer. We're talking about it because we have to talk about it. That's the problem. So let's discuss it. August 13th, 1998 birth date for Carter Hart, who is a grand total of like, oh my goodness, 26 years old almost. Next summer, he's going to be 25 this summer. That, wow. He's got a 3.979 cap hit this next year. The problem is for him, his qualifying offer is like 4.479 or something like that next season. So that's probably what's going to scare away the Oilers unless that big cap jump happens. He has a grand total of 14 playoff games of experience starred in those games. Fantastic goals against average and a .926 save percentage in the 2020 playoffs for the Philadelphia Flyers. But we don't really need to talk about that. Obviously, he's been in the NHL since 18-19. A guy who, for a time, those first 2 years, hot, great goalie, awesome, fantastic, great save percentage, great goals against average, really great. Last 2 years prior to this year, he's really struggled with the goals against and the goals situation, but Philadelphia has also not been the team that they were maybe that first year in 18-19 when Carter Hart became an NHL player. Elevated above 3.0 the past two seasons, came below, playing his most games in his career at 55 this year, 294 and 907. So much more realistic Edmonton Oilers goaltending numbers. So again, I think the consensus is he's kind of one of those local kids that you'd love to have around, and kind of similar to Stuart Skinner. And quite honestly, if you could have Carter Hart and Stuart Skinner on the same team, I think that would bring a lot of hometown pride for the Edmonton Oilers and our fans in the city. So that's what you need to know there. And obviously, too, I think just the discussion around goaltending is going to be one of the most important things all summer is, do I expect changes, right? Here's the thing. We're going to discuss it lots. I know that. I know it's going to be a thing. But do I actually expect changes? No. I expect nothing to change. Jack Campbell will rebound. Stuart Skinner will only get better. And away you go into the playoffs with another run at the cup. Now, that said, the biggest improvement in either goaltender is going to have to be the defense. But again, another year older for Evan Bouchard, another year under his belt for Philip Broberg, a good summer of training. Darnell Nurse hopefully sits back a little bit more, stays on his feet a little bit more, and makes better, wiser defensive plays. Much improved this year over the past few years as well, so that should be mentioned. Matthias Ekholm plays an entire season in Edmonton. Matthias Ekholm gets to have a defense more or less built around his style of defending, I would expect, because he is your best defender. I think, too, obviously any changes that are made will only improve this D-core. We're talking, obviously, of Cody Ceci. Heaven forbid, I think, based on that playoff run, if something happens with Brett Kulak, who, despite the cap hit, comes in at a very steady Eddie third-pairing defenseman. We've been saying that in Edmonton for years. But I think realistically for the Oilers, at this point, it's one of those situations where it's just, if everybody plays to the caliber they're able to, right? Cody Ceci, if he wasn't dealing with something all year and he played to the caliber he's capable of all year, we're probably not talking about trading Cody Ceci. We're just talking about maybe it's Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm's time on the top pair, and you don't so much worry about Cody Ceci as a top pairing defenseman, because Cody Ceci is that middle pair defenseman on most NHL teams. Obviously, a lot of teams talk about, or a lot of insiders talk about him not being a top four defenseman. I think the top end of Cody Ceci is a middle pairing defenseman that serves you very well throughout the regular season and playoffs. So I'm saying, like, you don't have to give up, but if the Oilers do give up, it'll only be to upgrade at that point. And I think, too, in terms of everything else, is to go back to the goaltending situation. I don't think until a goaltender wins a Vezina in Edmonton that anyone's going to care about your goaltenders in Edmonton, right? Is you're going to love him when he has a good night, and you're going to hate him when he gives up 4+. That's the way the Edmonton Oilers fan base works with goaltenders. It's the way we've worked for years, and I think still, right, people still, for some reason, right, will talk about Grant Fuhr as the best goaltender the Oilers ever had, and then still bash that he gave up a ton of goals. So it's just a situation there for the Oilers where at the end of the day is, do you make the key save? Are you giving up 3 or less? And are you winning hockey games? That's the formula to be a fan favorite in Edmonton. But at the same rate, too, at the end of the day, when you're in this situation that we are right now, you got to win a cup and you got to win a Vezina, and you'll be glorified as the best goaltender the Edmonton Oilers have ever had, whether that be Jack Campbell next season, whether it be Stuart Skinner next season, whether it be somebody else. It's a discussion we're going to have all summer, because it's a discussion we have every single summer, because it just is what it is. Perhaps a new goalie coach, whether it be somebody that might be floating around on LTIR until July 1st, or perhaps something else there for the Edmonton Oilers when it really comes down to it. You know what? It's just one of those situations where there can be changes made for this Oilers team, but changes don't have to be made. I think the appetite for changing the goalie coach is bigger than changing the goalies, and it's a continued discussion that we will have the entire summer. So that's my piece. That's really all I've got to say. My apologies if I shocked you today, right? I didn't expect to shave my head when I woke up this morning, but it's just what I did. It's just one of those things. You get absolutely frustrated with life and you go do crazy things. For me, my crazy thing was losing that fancy hair of mine and getting a cool cut, cool buzz for the summer. Friends, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I'm up on out of here.